What's up, you guys? This is Devin with Century FX Studios TV, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about SD cards. Specifically, SD cards that go in your camera, the standard size SD cards, not the micro SD cards, but they kind of fall in the same category. But specifically, these SD cards that you can store videos, audio, pictures on them. I've been using them for over 20 years, and I gotta say, I really do not like SD cards. Now, as you can see, I have a plethora of SD cards on the table here. I got SanDisk Extreme SD cards, and typically I only use SanDisk cards, but I also have PNY cards, and I got some CF Express cards right here. So these are CF Express Type B cards, and these are SD cards. Now, these two cards, one right here is a UHS-2 card. That's the one with a whole bunch of pins right here. And this is a UHS-1 card. Basically, one's faster than the other. Can you guess? The one that has the most computer contacts on them, that they transmit more information. They can take in more information from your camera, but also get it off to your computer way faster than a regular SD card with only a little bit of contacts. This one is super fast. Also, I've noticed that this one is way better in a lot of aspects, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But that's the UHS-2 card, and that's the UHS-1 card. UHS-1 slower, UHS-2 blazingly fast. All right. So that's there just to show you the difference in the two types of SD cards that you can find on the market and why they're different. But SD cards have been around for so long, almost since the first digital cameras came out, early 2000s. But really, SD cards have never been the fastest form of media. So if you get these faster, newer cameras that truck a lot of data, like your R5s, your R5 Mark IIs, your 1DXs, your 1D equivalent, or R1 that's going to come out pretty soon, you're going to realize that SD cards just don't even work. Some of these cameras are not even built with SD card readers on them. Why? Because they're just not fast enough. So why do we still have them around? Why? Because most people can still use them, because most people don't need the highest megapixels. Most people don't need a fast throughput in their camera. So what you end up finding is a whole bunch of people still having these memory cards that really top out at certain speeds. Now, even this, the UHS-2 variant, this card with all these pins on the back here, even these cards right here, the UHS-2 variant with all these pins on the back here, are not the fastest media that you can get. You can actually get faster media, which are now the CF Express cards. Now, CF cards have always been around, but they have different variants. Just like the UHS-2 SD card here, you have the CF Express card, and it has its pins lodged in here. If you can get that in focus for me, R6 Mark II. It has the pins up here, but this is the card, and it's a lot closer to a video game cartridge that you would see in a Game Boy or something like that, right? Game Boy Advance or something like that. Now that makes more sense. Why? Because when we drop it, it can really take a beating here. Why? Because the plastic is thicker, then you have it wrapped around the whole device. It's nice, it's compact, it's in there, and it's way faster than any SD card on the market. One thing that also gets me is that the CF Express Type B cards are not only faster than your average SD card, or all SD cards in comparison. Now, you can probably get slower CF Express Type B cards that are cheaper, or that are equivalent to your fastest SD card. But these right here, specifically the Angelbird cards, are cheaper and they're faster than any SD card. So you can find these Angelbird cards per capacity and speed faster than an equivalent or slower SD card. So yeah, you can get fast and super fast SD cards, but they will never rise up to what these CF Express Type B cards can do. Now, you also have CF Express Type A cards that Sony typically uses, but CF Express Type B is slightly faster and it's cheaper too, but only Canon and I think maybe Nikon uses them, but I'm thinking that Nikon also uses CF Express Type A. But correct me in the comments. I know you guys are ready to correct me. But I'm primarily shooting Canon with the CF Express Type B cards. So that's really all I know about these cards as far as what cameras use them. Because not many cameras actually use CF Express Type B. It is a new card format in reference to all the other card formats on the market. And it can get very, very large in capacity. You're talking about 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes. I think they're even working on 4 terabytes if it's not already on the market. And a lot of those, in comparison to the prices of the SD cards, are cheaper and they're faster. This is like the first time this has ever happened with CF cards in comparison to your average SD card. Now, SD cards and CF cards have always been on the market in different form factors, but this is CF Express Type B. These are recent times. CF Express Type B, your SD cards, and you have UHS-1, UHS-2 SD cards, and you have the different variations of the CF Express. Now, the main reason why I don't get along with the SD cards, and as long as this R6 Mark II can get me in focus, this is a broken SD card. You see how it's starting to pull apart here? So basically, the SD card is made in two pieces and slapped together, I guess, with some glue or something like that. But I wouldn't want to put somebody's $1,000 wedding pictures, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $700,000, whatever, how much money you're going to be spending on your wedding pictures on these cheap cards. You see what I'm saying? All this money you spend on your wedding, and photographers are using this. And it's not necessarily their fault because this is all they have on the market to utilize, especially if your camera doesn't take SD cards. And if you're using an R5 Mark I, you're using SD cards plus your CF Express Type B cards, because if you're trying to do backup, photography, one card taking pictures in and then another card backing them up, you can only back up to CF Express Type B and SD cards. You can't do dual CF Express Type B, which is crazy to me. So I'm hoping that the R5 Mark II has dual CF Express Type B card slots. At one point in time, I was like, oh, well, they using SD cards and CF Express cards to give everybody, ample opportunities to use the camera and not have to spend a whole bunch of money on a different card format for the 5D series and the R5 series. But that doesn't seem to be the case here, because the SD card is cheaper or more expensive than the CF card at the capacities and speeds that you would buy the R5 Mark II. So, or if you're investing in that camera, you get what I'm saying. If you're investing in that camera, you're going to be using those higher speeds from the CF Express cards. And with these SD cards, another thing that gets on my nerves about them is when they start to break and they always chip and fray at the edges. Now, you might be a very cautious photographer putting your SD cards in like SD card holders and stuff like that. Well, those SD card holders actually fray the SD cards at the ends here. As you can see, this one's starting to fray, if you can see that on the R6 Mark II. It's just a mess. And this happened after, 2 weeks of use? And I'm not just saying this is a SanDisk issue, guys. This is a SD card issue around the way. Like every SD card that I've ever used pretty much has had some kind of fraying at the edges here. Even this PNY card. And PNY tends to be the cheaper brand here, but it definitely is starting to fray at the edges here. And it opens up. And when it opens up, give it 1 second for this R6 Mark II to get in focus. And when it starts to open up, guess what it starts to do? It starts to release the lock pin in here. Most SD cards have a lock pin. As you can see that this one does not have a lock pin on the side here. All the way on the left, it's like a little chunk missing, right? Well, that is usually for the locking, it's like a little locking switch pin. Well, that has already fallen inside of the card. And since it fell inside of the card, now here's an SD card with the you see the little gray locking pin on there. Since this one has not fallen inside of the SD card, the computer looks at it like a regular SD card. But if it ever falls inside, like that PNY card down there, and this is not a brand thing, this is just an SD card thing. But if this SanDisk one ever falls inside of the SD card, and it has on SanDisk and all other brands, your computer is gonna look at it like, is this locked? Is it not? And you're gonna be like, no, it's not locked. But you can't unlock it because your lock is inside and broken inside of the SD card. Now, fortunate for these CF Express Type B cards, these cards don't have locks on them, and so the locking switch can't get locked inside of it. But you can't lock it. I don't know what the purpose of the lock was. I need to do some research and find out why they use the locked SD cards, because it's not for safety. Because you could just unlock it if you wanted to. It's like getting in a car and trying to steal it. When you're already inside the car, you don't have to open the door. You can just unlock it from the inside as long as the alarm's not on. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you already have access to flip it up and down on the SD card, not this. But there was no use in having a lock. Now that the locks are breaking on the SD cards, they cause more of an issue than a positive change in your security of your media. So I've never had a person take my SD card and not know how to unlock it. That's just silly. So if anybody knows in the comments why SD cards have these redundant locks on them that are now getting broken off and lodging themselves in my SD cards, and I can't unlock them to access the card, somebody please tell me. Or if you have a workaround to fix that locked SD card, let us know in the comments below. I'm done with Central FX Studios TV. We're just talking about SD cards and CF Express Type B cards. Like I said, UHS-2 cards, the ones that are UHS-2 SD cards, they actually are very, very durable, and they don't break as much as the UHS-1 cards. Probably because they have so many pins here. But if you have a UHS-1 card that has just this one row of pins here, chances are the plastic's thin and all this other stuff, and you got to worry about it. The SD card lock going into the actual SD card, and then this part fraying off. So you need to check the edges of your SD cards. Kind of tug at them to see if they're starting to get loose. Don't do too much because you might have memories on them. Of course, get all your memory off. Whatever you need to do, back it up. But take your SD card, and what you should do, start to pull at the edges here, especially if you put it in like an SD card, aftermarket SD card bank, or any kind of SD card holder. Go ahead and pull. Let me see here, this one. Yeah, go ahead and look at the edges, start pulling at the edges, and see if that seam is starting to crack on you, because a lot of times they are. This is a good reason why you should always stock up on SD cards and stock up on CF Express cards. It's always good to have backups. Put them in places that you usually frequent, in your bag, in your car, all this other stuff. Tony Northup said this to me one day: keep it in your car. Always have a backup SD card on you, because you never know what these things are going to do. They're just pieces of plastic. And who would have thought that people pay thousands and thousands of dollars on wedding pictures, and you have your pictures stuck on these little pieces of plastic with golden tips on them, and anybody can drop them or chip them, or just put them in a case and it chips themselves on the edges. So check your edges here. So if anybody else has an issue with SD cards, put them in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Go to the comment section to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.